This is about humans dreaming together.
About humans supporting each other on our journeys.
It's about the science and the art behind making our dream lives a reality.
To the students of life,
the young and the curious,
the dreamers and the doers,
to those who crave to be a strong individual
and want to be part of something bigger than themselves. Welcome.
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 Welcome to the Dreamology podcast. Hello, my fellow dream chasers, entrepreneurs, hustlers, and people out there who are on a mission to be the best version of themselves. This is your host, Tim Bishop. Welcome back to the Dreamology podcast. On the show, as you know, if you are a repeat listener, we are here studying the science and the art behind making our dream lives a reality. The world is a more complex place than it has ever been, and these are strange times. And, what I've learned through my short life is that the societal lessons that we are being taught and what we're learning in school is not quite getting it done for teaching people how to live in this modern world and truly how to make the modern American dream a reality. And so that's why we're here. That's what we're up to. We're trying to help as many people as possible navigate this crazy, crazy world. And one of the ways we are doing that is bringing on incredible guests. And so let's meet today's guest, Andrew Metz. All right, so quick summary of Andrew Metz's resume. He is the regional vice president of a company in Milwaukee he's been working at for 12 years. He's a public speaker, he's a content creator, a father, a husband. And the coolest thing about Andrew, in my opinion, is that he really just talks about, look, we're all human, we all have flaws, and the reality is that we got one life to live, and it's maybe sound corny a bit when I say it like that, I'm realizing, but he really pushes for being someone that you're proud of, living a life that you're proud of, and it wasn't always that way for him. He talks about his personal struggles, gaining weight with alcohol, and different, just, again, very human things that we all go through, and he talks about a certain point in his life where he realized, he wanted to be someone he was proud of. He wanted to be someone his kids could be proud of, and he just kind of made that a big part of his mission in his life. And so, we just talk about a lot of really sound concepts here, right? Things like, if you don't like the chapter of your life you're on today, you can always start a new one tomorrow. Like I mentioned, being someone you are proud of. And another thing we talked about was just not thinking the world owes you anything, but asking how you can serve the world, right? In your early 20s. Not thinking things should happen fast, but again, how do you become significant? How do you provide value? How do you help serve this world? And that's how you're going to get most of the things that you want in life. And so I'm really excited to share this conversation with you. So let's just get to it. Here's Andrew Metz. All right, everybody, dream chasers out there, we got Andrew Metz on the show today. Andrew, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me, Tim.
Beautiful. Well, before we dive too deep into other topics, I feel like I want to just get a 2-second rundown, man. It's been a crazy year. How you been holding up? How's work from home been going for you? And just how is the general energy going on over in your life right now?
It's there's pros and cons, but I've worked for the same company going on 12 years, and I travel quite a bit as a sales leader, but when I'm not traveling, I go into the office because we're based in Milwaukee. So for 12 years, I went into an office, almost 12 years. And the last 4 months, I've worked from home. I have 3 kids under the age of 8. I had 2 of them come in during an interview I was running an hour ago to say someone hurt their foot, and it's like my wife was rocking my 2-year-old daughter upstairs. And so we're juggling life, man. But, people understand, one of kind of my big kicks is like, we're all people with feelings and situations, and there's a level of professionalism we got to bring to the corporate space, but we're also not corporate robots, so that's been a juggle. COVID's been a juggle, but there's been some pros. I've seen my kids a lot more, been able to spend time, midday or, at 4:00 when usually 4 or 5, when I started my 30-minute commute home, I'm already kind of out shooting hoops with my 8-year-old or taking my 6-year-old to the park. So there's some positives. So yeah, man, it's like, we're taking it in stride, and I'm kind of like, every time something crazy happens, there's, there's situations where sometimes it sucks, but there's also, 3 good things we could take from it, and I probably got 20 good things I could take from this. So
Yeah.
trying to look at it positively.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like everybody has had their own different thing, on a spectrum of, obviously some people have passed away in this time.
Yep.
Some people have lost their jobs. Some people have
Yep.
just learning to adapt to a new environment. So a lot of hardships, but a lot of lessons out of all this. And then, yeah, I mean, obviously we were just talking about this before we started, but for me, cause I've just had the fortune of being able to crash at my parents' place through all this. So luckily I didn't have to have as much financial stress as maybe some people would, but
Right.
COVID I thought was interesting because, it's something that we can't control. I mean, we can to an extent wearing masks, stay in, but it's such this broad, unknown virus. Yep. And then what hit me harder, honestly, in the last couple months is, obviously being from Minneapolis, the George Floyd killing, and now all of this stuff is being brought to my attention that I just missed, and a lot of people missed beforehand. And that hit me harder because I was like, man, I could have been controlling this for a long time and I haven't yet. And so I know we just touched on this, but how has that been hitting you? I know that Milwaukee's a big segregated city.
Yes.
And you're big on leadership and just being part of the change you want to see. And so, what kind of things has that spurred on in your life to start taking action on?
Yeah, I mean, I think similar. There's been a lot of humbling moments, a lot of like uncomfortable conversations, and to me, that's nothing to be ashamed of. That's just growth. And I've talked to Black leaders in Milwaukee. I've been invited to sit at the table with my friend Dylan Ali, who's linked me up with a group that he's got called the Onyx Project here in Milwaukee. And it's just like, if people know I'm coming from a good place and I'm here to learn, and I have their best interests, and I'm coming from a place of love, I think people are very open to having those conversations. And I had a really good meeting a couple weeks ago with some leaders of different colors, and it was so wild. We there's about 20 of us total, all different, men, women, black, white, brown, just all different diversity. And people were walking by, and we did it in kind of the heart of the city. We did it outside, kind of in a plaza area of a shopping area there in Milwaukee. And people stopped by. One guy sat in for a while. One guy watched for an hour, and he's like, "Hey, I got to go, but I just want to tell you, I think it's so beautiful you guys are having this conversation." And I think some horrible things happening, obviously, and a lot of things are coming to the surface, but it's always like, how do we react to these moments, right? It's like something bad happens, shit had happened, but how do we react, right? And I think if that put me in that situation, and now I can bring that knowledge, that empathy to my organization, I'm a better leader for my organization. I'm a better leader as a person. I can understand a little more. One of the gentlemen there said, it's okay if you don't know these things. Maybe you've never had these conversations, but you're learning, and that's good. And I think that's kind of the place I'm coming from. I've always treated leadership like, meet them where they are. Don't assume they know anything. I mean, another thing I think a lot about is expectations. Like I could have really high expectations of myself, but I could have low expectations of everyone else. And I'm just going to meet them where they are. And maybe they'll rise to the occasion and impress me with their knowledge or understanding or skill set or whatever I'm looking for in that situation. And maybe they won't, but if they don't, if I'm a leader, I'm there to help educate, be patient, listen, and move them along. If I've done mentorship with a lot of young people in Milwaukee, I started at a tech company in Milwaukee almost 12 years ago. We had 100 employees. Now we have 550. I've been in a sales leadership capacity for 7 or 8 years. And, you meet young professionals where they're at. And, I always view what their gap in knowledge, whether it be, we're talking about diversity and inclusion, but whether it be sales skills or, life skills or whatever, hey, that's an opportunity for me to help this person learn something if they're not quite where I'm at. And by the way, I learned all my stuff from a mentor 10 years earlier, right? So it's kind of that pay it forward? What do you expect them to know? So to kind of wrap it back up to what you were talking about, I think this is just a great opportunity for us to tear down some of these walls that have been up because we haven't talked about it, and just go have candid conversations. And you're never going to lose if you're actively listening and seeking to understand. And that's kind of the approach I've taken.
Yeah. Yeah. And the message I took there was like, we can be leaders in areas of our life, and other areas of our life, we can be the ones who are behind. In this case, being white men, it's like, well, we clearly had some learning to do, right? There's Black leaders, and there was leaders of color that had to do the teaching for us, and then we can pass it on once we learn that information. And so that's the cycle of life, man. And I love your openness and your vulnerability to admit that you needed to just sit and listen and be a part of these conversations. That's super powerful, man. So I love that. So I want to dive into your story a bit now, your background, and get all the details on your life. And so, one of the big things that drew me to you is that, I just, based off seeing your story, is that you kind of had this, I don't know what you want to call it, but this middle part of your life where you just felt like your habits weren't there. You were drinking a lot, you weren't exercising. And I know you mentioned to me too, that like, this wasn't like your whole life. This was like when you were in high school, you were, star athlete. And there was just a part of time where you kind of fell into maybe just bad habits and a bad part of your life. And so I'm curious on, first off, to get the backstory, like, why do you feel like that happened? Why do you feel like you went from being this athlete, this kid who was in good shape, doing things, and you kind of let yourself slip into a place where you didn't really want to be in?
Yeah, I think, I've had success in my life in different areas, but it's kind of hard to get like everything going at the same time. And that might be like, because even when my health was shitty and I drank every day and I didn't exercise, I was still making a lot of money for a young person. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how do you define success, and really what do you prioritize? And I had a big status, and I drove a nice car, and I had a nice family, and all those things that might be important to some people, or maybe that's what I valued at the time. And I think some of it is just, some of it's focus. One of the things I said in a post that I still think about was, there was a point in time where I took care of the people around me, those being my, salespeople at work that I led, my immediate family. I have 3 children, my wife, but I didn't take care of myself, and it's that thought process of, you can give, but if you're depleting yourself, you can't give what you don't have. And so, there's just moments of reflection that a lot of small habits lead up to something. And I know you talk about dreaming and transformation, and I was a good athlete in high school. You wouldn't believe me if you saw me. I'm short and not that strong, but I was pretty quick. Although I've been showing off my long jumping skills on LinkedIn. I did successfully long jump that kiddie pool, by the way. That's in my Instagram story. But it's like you're voted. Me and 3 other in my high school graduating class of 360, we were voted best athletes, and all those people went on to do college sports and were very good athletes. So I had some clout or had some accolades, and it was running the corporate 5K, and I got halfway around, kind of at the midway point, and I'm finding myself with a side ache, kind of walking, and I'm like, what the hell happened? It's like, where did things go so wrong? And it was just kind of those moments that are kind of rock bottom. Drinking kind of goes hand in hand with this too. No one would have said, oh, Andrew Metz is an alcoholic, or he's a binge drinker, or a blackout drinker, but I was a frequent drinker. And as a parent of an 8 and 6-year-old boys, one of the things my wife told me after I stopped drinking, she said, I don't want to tell you this to make you feel bad, but my 5-year-old at the time said, when I'm a dad, I'm going to drink 3 beers every night. And it's that impressionable moments that was just confirmation that, everyone's watching. And, we say all these buzzwords like lead by example in the corporate space. Well, shit, that's applicable in the home too. That's applicable when, That's applicable on social media. That's applicable in your community. That's applicable when no one's looking too, So it was kind of this, I had a couple moments that I'm big into self-esteem and feeling good about yourself. Like I had two older brothers that always gave me shit because they said I was cocky, but I was sure of what I was doing, and I was confident, and I did my own things, and I had success in athletics, and I was undersized but I performed well, or I was able to be funny or get people's attention because I was the fourth child in a family of six, a blended family. So I always say I was lost in the shuffle. You was like you had to tap dance or be able to tell a joke or something to get some attention. And so I always had good self-esteem, but the gut check for me is, walking the 5K, drinking beer on a Tuesday night and not having satisfaction and just drinking by yourself. Those moments where you go, are you proud of who you are? Is this who you want your kids to become? If I extrapolate out my activities right now until I'm 60 years old, what does that look like? Is that someone that I'm proud of? And just being able to start writing a chapter of my life that I'm proud of. And I'll tell you what happened. Two things happened. One, I'm on a better trajectory to where I want to be, or what I think could be an awesome version of myself at age 50 or 60 or 70. But two, there's a really empowering feeling of controlling that aspect of your life, to go. I remember the day I ran. So I started running after I got my ass kicked in the 5K. I mean, I was like on the second half of the pack, and these aren't professional athletes. These are just corporate people. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, damn, my 17-year-old version of myself would be pretty disappointed right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I started running, I think the next week, and it was about 9 months later, I ran in my first half marathon. And I'm currently training to run a full marathon in the fall. And 2 years ago, if you would have said I was going to run a full marathon in 2.5 years, I would have said you're crazy, because I could barely run 3 miles. But I remember that feeling of the first day running 4 miles. I told my wife, I ran 4 miles today. I've never done it. And then I remember running 5. And then I remember running 6. And that feeling that, all right, now you can go run 13 miles and you could do it, is very empowering. And it's not about running anymore. It's just going, you and I talking right now, maybe this is something I wouldn't have done 4 years ago, because it's like, I wouldn't want to put myself out there. I would have been paranoid about like, what would people think? But now I feel like I'm taking more chances, because ultimately, there's a sweet spot in my life. I'm 36 years old, where I have enough wisdom under my belt where I feel like I can make a difference in people's life, because I have enough life experiences. But I'm also still kind of a young guy in the corporate world. And sitting, I'm young enough to jump, 12-foot kiddie pools in my backyard. And I like that feeling. I like the nimbleness of going, yeah, I can sit in the executive C-suite. And I do that sometimes. I meet with my, we're a 550 person software company. I meet with my CEO once a week in a sales meeting. And I can hold my ground in that conversation, but then I can go talk to, a bunch of kids that are in I oversee our BDR team, and it's, early mid 20s, and I can go have those conversations and relate with those people, and they're not like, okay, dad, I think I don't know, maybe my gut's wrong, but I feel like I can kind of talk their talk and hopefully level with them to some degree. And I think that's so if that's a sweet spot, it's like, let's go out, use our voice, let's find a platform like LinkedIn where we can be, helpful and connect some dots. And that's kind of where I'm at in life right now, but I'm excited for what the future holds too. There's better days to come too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 23 and we're getting along all right. So I think you got the
So far so good.
Yeah. Man, a few things I love what you said there. I mean, it's so powerful to honestly ask yourself, like, am I being someone I'm proud of? I feel like that's a really powerful question. And one person I love is Mike Posner. I don't know if you know who that is, but he was the musician who sang Cooler Than Me and Pill and Ibiza and these kind of songs, if you know what those are.
Okay.
But basically, now he's on this big kick too. And he's like, I want to be my own hero kind of thing. Like, I want to be someone that I'm proud of. And I just feel like when you flip that question on yourself, it's powerful because no one's really asking it to you. No one's really saying, hey, Andrew, are you someone that you're proud of today? Like maybe your wife or, someone really close to you. But besides that, like you're not getting that question a lot. So I love how you kind of flip that script on yourself. And I also love how you just mentioned, I feel like, and this is something that I feel like I mentioned before we started here that, my brother's 4 or 5 years older than me. And I got to I've always been someone who kind of looks ahead and sees, the potential of what can happen if you keep a habit going. And I like how you brought up just, it wasn't like you made the choice. It was kind of like these small little things. And eventually you got to a point where you were like, okay, enough's enough. Like it's time for me to flip the script here. And now, like you maybe screwed up for a bit in some areas of your life, but like, again, you're young, you're fresh. Like you said, I mean, it's not like you got time to turn this around. And so I just like that mindset shift and how you reflected on that and how you can piece all that together now, communicate it to me. Like, I feel like just the self-awareness there is a pretty cool thing.
You can go write a new chapter. Like that sounds real cliche, but like October 11th, I started a new chapter where I stopped drinking alcohol, and Saturday will be 9 months dry lifestyle. And, man, it's different. It's really different. But I got people on LinkedIn that I barely knew, like people from my company that I've had some conversation with go, hey, I've stopped drinking. You coming out and talking about it was a big deal. And I'm not anti-alcohol. I'm not anti-good time, but I am like anti things that aren't serving you. You kind of talked about like, am I proud of myself? Another way to look at it is like, how is this thing serving me? How is not being physically fit serving me? How am I a role model or lack thereof to my children? How is drinking every day? All those kind of things. It's all, if you call yourself a leader, if you don't feel good about yourself, you're kind of fake. You're kind of a fake leader, right? Because it starts with, it's that whole, I can't give you what I don't have. So if I have confidence, if I feel good about myself, if I feel good about my decisions, I can empower you to go make better decisions. And it's not bullshit if I'm walking the walk myself. You know what I'm saying? So
100%.
It's that gut check of going, are you the real deal? Like, I always, when I used to travel for work, we used to travel a lot when no one's traveling now anymore, but I would always think about that moment where it's like, you could be in a hotel room by yourself. And I'm a guy I got chaos going on the other wall because I got 3 kids and, I got a lively house, but it's like you travel, you get some quiet moments and you could go stare in a mirror for 5 minutes and go, who am I? Like, it's just me. I'm the only person in this hotel room. Like, who do I really feel good about who I am? My decision-making, like truly at my soul, do I feel like I'm a good person? If the answer is yes, then that's an attractive quality. Like a lot of people are looking for that, especially you talk about self-esteem and like you mentioned your age, you're a young guy. Like I didn't have a smartphone until I was 24. I got my first cell phone when I was 21, but we didn't even text on that. We just made phone calls. You know what I'm saying? But like, I always say I'm so grateful that I didn't have this addictive dopamine hit craze thing when I was young, because I think it helped my my presentation skills. Like I'll go to Marquette University, I'll go to UWM. You talked about before we started, like things that I'm not learning in school. And I try to focus in when I present to college students, here's what maybe they're not talking about in the curriculum, but these are things you need to know. But like me getting up in front of, I used to get to present at Marquette in front of 250 people. That's a big audience. And that's, some people get intimidated. And to me, I'm comfortable in that because I've presented a lot, but that's kind of becoming a lost art. And that's a lot about, when I respond on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, or I text, I get a lot of time to think about it. But that kind of like that Q&A, like someone's going to ask you a question and you're going to have to answer in front of 200 people. That takes some guts to be able to do that. And I'm not arrogant. I don't think I have all the right answers. I've made mistakes. I'll continue to make mistakes. I'll have failures because I'm going to try things. I'm not going to play everything so safe. And, maybe some of those Q&As went poorly. I don't know. But at the same time, it's like I'm still on the court taking the jump shot at the end of the game. I'm confident enough to do it. And that's worth something, even if you miss the shot.
Yeah. And I mean, that's where that self-esteem and, self-love comes in. It's actually funny because your buddy, Dylan, when I talked to him, we talked a lot about we just had a kind of a phone call to just chat and just get to know each other. And we talked a lot about self-love and what that looks like.
Yes.
And one of the things we said was just self-discipline. That's a big part of it. And like you said, because actually, funny enough, I'm training for a marathon too. You didn't know
Nice.
that, but I'm actually about a month away. Actually, tomorrow I'm running 20 miles. And so
Okay.
that's going to be
You progressed further than I have.
But it's the same thing where I wasn't a runner. I mean, I played basketball, I played football, I played, baseball, and I could run. I knew I could run, but without a ball, I felt like I couldn't run.
Uh-huh.
And one of those things that with running, it's that you know that you're doing it, and you know that you're putting yourself through it, and you know that yesterday it's like 90 degrees and you're stepping out there and you're doing it. And I like that idea of, like, again, the things that you can control, right? You can't always control how your business is going or how people respond to a certain thing you do. But what is in your control is those choices you make for yourself. Did you get up on the stage and did you give it your best? Are you going out there and doing things that are challenging you? Are you changing your habits? And to me, that's the same way. I'm like, if I'm doing those things, no matter what's happening, I can love myself because I'm doing the things that I know are best for me.
Love that. That's awesome. And I think that you said discipline, like this morning at 5:15 a.m., I woke up to run 6 miles. I'm not quite on the 20-mile tip yet. I run 11 miles this weekend, so I'm building my way up. But but to your point, I don't want to run at 5:15, but you know what? Like, I've committed to this thing. And so all that discipline, creates a lot of self-esteem and creates it's part of the habits that makes us feel good about who we are. Plus, exercising just feels good, and it's good for you, and it's healthy for. I found running to be very meditative and just kind of that. I mean, like I said, I'm always on the phone at work, and then I step outside this door and it's kids, which is awesome. I love my family, but it's great to have that hour break to go, all right, I'm going to go clear my mind, kind of a thing. And that's important too.
Yeah. So now it's transitioning a bit to, I'm just curious, because you mentioned the sales again and the career. I'm curious, you're 13 years into your career now, and you got a lot of years left. And, at this point, you're, like you said, your influence life's on LinkedIn. You got a good sales leadership job. Just reflecting on, because I'm 23 and I'm just getting into this whole thing, reflecting on just career evolution and maybe just advice for people who are young, just getting into their career. Like, what were some things that you would tell yourself, your 23-year-old self, about just the idea of finding a calling, finding a career you like, and, going through that journey?
Well, first of all, that's a great question. I haven't always killed it. In 2008, before I started at my current company, I was at Oracle. As a big company. In fact, my boss was in Minneapolis downtown. And I was about 6 months in, and this was the 08-09 recession. They had a big RIF, a reduction in force, and I got swept up in that. So it was like I was a year out, and the story is funny because they let me go on my wife's birthday. So I was married at the time, and I was like, "Happy birthday! I'm unemployed." And the reason I say that is like that. I actually think that was the best thing that could have happened to me, because like it was. The thing I thought about a week after, I was pissed. I wasn't bitter. I kind of felt like it was a waste of time, because I was actually having some success at a Milwaukee company, and then I got recruited over, and it was like I just got ramped up. I actually hit my first quota, and the quarter was over, and they just popped off a bunch of people, and I was one of those. But I remember thinking, like, a week after, I'm like, no one owes me shit. Like, no one owes me anything, and I still have that mentality. Like. And that goes back to that whole expectation thing. Like, when people are disappointed, when people are sad, they just have too high of expectations of people. They're like, well, I shouldn't have been laid off. I should have made more money. I should have done this. And I'm always like so grateful to have the opportunity. I'm grateful to make the money I've had. You talked about COVID earlier. Like, I'm grateful to still have a job and being at a company that's having success. So, to circle back on your original question, once I got settled in at the company that I had no idea it was going to be this long of a ride, I just had a very humbled mentality. I remember starting on the team. There was about 10 BDRs, and we were all cold calling, setting leads for people that would run meetings, which was the next job I did. And I remember just thinking, all right, I just got to let go at Oracle. This is a good gig. I'm going to be the last person they're going to fire. Like if they're going to fire 9 people, I'm going to be the last man standing. That was my mentality. And I proved it by effort. I proved it by discipline. And that served me really well. And I was very fortunate to be at a company that was at 100 people in 08. Now it's 550. Like not everyone's on that kind of trajectory. But what I will say is a lot of people came and went during that time, and a lot of people left for better opportunities. Air quotes for anyone listening that better opportunities is just a perception. You know, I've never been enamored by shiny objects. I've always looked at what is perceived as a better opportunity to give it some perspective and try to factor everything in. But you know, I'm not afraid to stay the course. Like you talked about marathon training, like that's a big commitment. And yeah, every week you're going to have to do a long run and carve out 2 to 3 hours, whatever, to do that run. I like that because one thing I found is pretty universal is, you know, immediate gratification usually is fool's gold. You know, if you're getting something quick, there's not a lot of substance to it. It's even something like my kids and I are growing a garden in our backyard, and the satisfaction that they get from ripping lettuce out and then making their own little salad is different than being served it at a restaurant, right? Because they got some blood, sweat, and tears in, and they've had to go weed it, and they've had to, you know, water that garden and had to go physically, but they saw it from a seed to this, right? And so that, you know, for the most part, delayed gratification is a very good thing, and being patient. So the number one thing I would say is don't assume you know anything, and be willing to be patient, because I've mentored a lot of young people that are like, hey man, I should be making more money. And I say, well, if you can make more money, go out to the free market, go out and see if you can get a job to make more money, then you can go demand more money. But until then, you're making what you're making, right? That's what they value you at. And if it's not good, you know, you can go find something else. But at the same time, usually the people that stick around and kind of hold their guns, it doesn't always work out because there's other forces. You know, does the organization do strong? Is there an industry climate thing? But I've been really lucky to just kind of hold true to what I value, and it's paid off. I mean, I oversee our entire BDR team. I oversee our new logo team, and it's about 35 people total. I have 4 managers that help me oversee those 30 people. And man, it's a humbling feeling to think about Andrew Metz at 2008 to say, hey, someday you're going to run a team of 35 people. You're going to have a VP title. I would have probably never believed you. So it's pretty humbling to think about. But there's a lot of gratitude that comes with that too.
Yeah.
I don't feel entitled to it. I feel very fortunate for it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Congrats on all that. And I think the mindset there is so powerful. Because again, I think about in my moments of stress, a lot of it comes from, and a lot of people my age, you know, that whole, you mentioned social media and the mental health thing, and you know, all that stuff where it's like, I definitely fall into that trap of feeling like I'm owed something, you know, no matter what it is. Somebody liking your post, somebody, you know, respecting this or that, or feeling like you should get this. Like, and the moments when I feel like I'm doing my worst work is when I'm feeling like thinking about what I should get. Yes. The moments that I'm doing my best work, and you said this too in yours, which was I started asking, how can I be the most valuable person here? Yes. Or if I'm gonna, you know, make content, and if I'm gonna, you know, put out podcasts and post on social medias, how can I give people the most value possible? Because if I do that, I can feel good about what I'm doing, and then I just keep doing that on repeat, rather than thinking, oh, the world owes me this. Because I fall into that all the time, and it's hard to not to, but it's really powerful when you hear someone else say it to you. So I'm getting a lesson right here in this conversation.
Well, I one thing I'll say about social media, and you know, we all fall into the trap because we're posting content to get attention. But if you look at it like, I view it this way: I'm 36 years old. I'm a father of 3. I've made mistakes. I've had some transformations. I manage a big sales team. I play guitar. I long jump kiddie pools, like just any goofy thing about me that makes me unique. That could be of value to someone. And if I put it out there and 10 people like it, so be it. I think some of my dopest content has had like shit for traction, like 50 likes. And then I think like one of my more kind of like gimmicky pieces. I had a picture of my daughter on my lap, and I had a fake keyboard that wasn't set up, and then I had my keyboard, and I talked about like, here's a parenting hack for people that are working from home. This is like a month into COVID, and it's got almost 1 million views, 30,000 likes. It was featured in a blog, and the blog just reached out to me 2 days ago and said, we're making a book from working from home. Can we use your image in the book? It's like, it's so funny to me because like, where do I value that and all the content I've put out? Like real low on the totem pole. I mean, my daughter's cute. Maybe that's why, but it's like, I don't think that's like the dopest thing I've ever done. But at the end of the day, if I just look at it like, this is good, this might be helpful. If it is, great. If it never gets traction, so be it. And you just put it out into the universe, and you don't have expectations. It's expectations. If I would have put up this kiddie pool post this morning of me jumping this and gone, oh man, if I don't get 300 likes, it's going to be a failure. It's like, who cares, man? It's some of it's just like not taking myself too seriously. And the other thing is, I don't have pressure with LinkedIn because I have a day job. Like, I'm not trying to drive someone to my online course or do some coaching, consulting. Like, if opportunities like this for us to sit down, talk, work, that's awesome. I love that. If I get an opportunity to talk, if someone wants to do a call with me, if I get to jump on a podcast, like, to me, this whole world's gravy because I got my day job too. So but once again, that goes back to my expectations. I have no expectations. I'm going to have high expectations of myself. I'm going to try to put out good content because I want to be proud of what I'm doing. But I have no expectations of how other people are going to engage. And the reality is, if people don't engage, it's not as good as you thought it was. That's just hard. That's just tough love. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe you thought it was really good and it's not. Maybe it is really good and just it didn't get picked up or didn't get the momentum or algorithm or whatever. Who cares? Like, it just doesn't matter that much. People get emotionally attached to likes and the dopamine hit of every 5 minutes checking it. And the other thing I'll just say is it's comparison. Comparison is bad. Comparison will take you down a dark, like, if I compare myself to my friend Dylan Ali or Q, who's got 80,000 connections on LinkedIn or followers, like, well, I can't. He's balling on a different level. He's got a whole different audience. If I just view that as, man, I could learn something from this dude, and I truly like what he does, then that's great. Like, then, there's something for me to get better. It's something for me to learn from, not for me to beat myself up over.
Yeah. And the comparison word's huge, right? I mean, actually through quarantine there was an online course from Yale. It was called the Science of Wellbeing or Psychology of Wellbeing.
Oh, nice.
It's basically one of the most popular courses at Yale ever, and they released it to the public. It was pretty awesome.
That's sweet.
And they talked about how like happiness is 100% relative. Like, and I think one of the studies was in a world where money's worth the exact same, people would rather have $50,000 if everyone else was making $25,000 than $100,000 if everyone else is making $200,000. Like, people would just rather have relative more. Yes. And so you think about it, because everyone, I mean, whether you're just someone who posts once a month about your friends drinking beer, or you're someone who's making content every day, like, everyone has that same feeling. Everyone will judge, and this is not, we're talking about social media, but like anything, everyone's going to judge their
car you drive or whatever
of what's around you. And it's such a dangerous thing, because I look at myself too, right? It's like, I'm 23 years old, and I could look at, I think there's, maybe 2 podcasters I know my age that are killing it, just absolutely killing it. And I'll compare myself to them sometimes and be like, man, like, they're killing it. And then I'll be like, wait a second, that's 2 people of the, like, to get out of that hack, I feel like it's perspective. It's saying, hold on, you mentioned Dylan and Q. You're like, that's just 2 people, right? And if you're always like comparing yourself to that, as opposed to saying, well, you know what, I'm still like doing more than a lot. And even if you're not doing more, I'm still trying. I'm still like, And so to get out of that relativity, I feel like there's just perspective there. It's saying, hold on, wait a second. Let's not compare myself to like this, because that's not a big percentage of the population. And let's not do this. And let's not do that. Like it, once you step back out of it, I feel like it's easy to kind of see where your mind's playing tricks on you.
Well, and I think the other way to look at it is there's a scarcity mindset to go, man, if Q's got 80,000 followers and I only got 8,000, and by the way, that's probably to scale. That's probably pretty accurate. Like it doesn't mean there's any less for me. You know, there's an abundance mentality to go, damn, maybe if I learned something from Q and he has me on his podcast, maybe some of his audience follows my stuff, right? Like me and Dylan are actually speaking next month. We're speaking on stage and we're going to film it. And I'm stoked about that because we're boys and we've talked about talking together for a long time. And there will, you know, if we use that content, there will be a cross marketing component because there's a lot of people that love Dylan stuff that don't know who I am. And there's a lot of people that I've worked with that are in my network that don't know who Dylan is, right? So it's like, there's positives. It's like 2 plus 2 does not equal 0. It equals 4 in that case. And so I always view it as it's all good. Like I want to learn. I want to learn from this person. I'm not threatened by that. And I don't feel bad for myself. I just view it as an opportunity for me to grow more.
Yeah. And it's so powerful, right? Just the mindset of wanting to give like love and support to others and wanting them to win instead of being jealous or, you know, angry that you're not. I mean, it's a better way to live. It's a better way to manifest your reality because you're supporting them and you feel good about that. And you also know, hey, if I do the work and if I do my thing, then it's going to come my way too if I just keep at it. And that actually goes back to what you said of like, you know, instant gratification's fool's gold, right? If you just try something and you want something else and so you leave over here and then you know, you might not ever really get anywhere because you're kind of running from the fact that you actually have to do the work. You actually have to, you know, I think it was
hard stuff.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Humans in New York? The guy who made that? I listened to his podcast once and he said, you know what I learned from traveling a lot of places is that most people who don't like where they live, it's not because of where they live. It's because of who they are. I think that's maybe the same for a lot of things. You know, obviously sometimes it really just might not be aligned, but I think there is value in sticking something out and truly understanding what about this do I not like, or what about this do I like, or what, you know, because if you're just running and running and running, or new city, new job, new place,
right,
you're never going to take those lessons and you're always going to be the same person who's showing up in the same environments and who's getting the same results, and you're always going to be asking the same questions, having the same pain. And so I just think it's really powerful to actually, again, step back and reflect on that and be like, I got to stick this out. I got to keep learning here.
Yes, no doubt. And I mean, like one of the things, so Dylan and I got an interesting relationship because we're both confident who we are, but one of the things that I've realized is, we live near each other and we hang out sometimes and we've done some work things together, but then personal time too. Our kids go to the same school. That's how we met. And one of the things that we both realize is there's nothing, we don't rely on each other. There's not like a power dichotomy where it's like, I'm trying to gain something from him or we just truly enjoy each other's presence. So like he got featured on this thing. It was so sick. I've literally watched it like 3 times. It's a 15-minute thing. It's called Young Guns TV. It's like kind of his keynote condensed down. And I'm like, I could be like, damn, I want to be on that stage and I want that spot. But I told him, I'm like, I'm your biggest fan, dude. Like, I feel like that's my guy. Like when I see him, I'm like, yep, that's my guy. Almost like we're a team, but we're not. But at the same time, it's cool to just come from a place of love where I'm just supporting him. And once again, together, may we create more opportunities through abundance as opposed to me trying to drag him down or going, you're not good enough for that stage. I should be on that stage, right? That's not the right way to look at it. So it's like you nailed it. It's a better way to live. It's a happier way to live. And there's a lot of bitter people in the world. You were talking about the Yale thing. One of the things that I talk a lot about is happiness. One of the best descriptions of happiness I've heard is happiness equals reality minus expectations. And you talked about that, like maybe it's not where you live, maybe it's who you are, right? But it's like your reality is your reality, but it's like, do I expect if I live in a 4-bedroom house, am I expecting an 8-bedroom house, or do I compare this to the 2-bedroom house that my wife and I lived in prior? And I go, damn, I feel so fortunate. We have a lot. We're blessed. We're fortunate, as opposed to going, I can run out my subdivision to houses that are twice the size and compare, right? And it's kind of loops back to comparison, what we were talking about. But happiness is a weird thing, man. I've seen a lot of people with a lot of things be unhappy. And I've traveled to Peru, and we had a sister parish, and we have a family that we support here. And I've seen where they live on dirt floors and tin roofs, and they're happy as hell. And that will mess with your mind to go, how is that possible? Because here in America, we've quantified having the American dream and driving a Lexus and having a 4-bedroom house in the suburbs is happiness. Yet there's a lot of people that are depressed in that setting.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you said it, man. Because a lot of my listeners know I was in Thailand and I spent 6 months there, and I had the same thing. I was like, man, this has got to be simpler than we're making it. Like it's got to be, right.
You're right. Well, I think we keep wrapping things around us that we think will make us happy. I used to drive a Camry. Now I drive a Lexus. But you know what? that didn't move the needle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, as an example, it's like having more things, having shinier things around you, we think it's going to make us happier. And I think a lot of people that, you're having these conversations 23 years old, it's spectacular, man. Like, you have great perspective. The sooner you could figure out that that's not going to make you happy, the quicker you're going to get to what actually makes you happy. And that's the self-esteem thing. It doesn't matter how much money I make, what my title is, whatever. If I can look at myself in the mirror, in the hotel room by myself and go, I'm proud of you, as cheesy as that sounds, that feels pretty damn good. That's a good place to be in. And I can give a lot more when I'm in that mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, totally. And so I know this is going to be obviously everyone's got a different answer to this, but we're talking about the American dream and the dream life. And, for you, what do you think as of right now? Because I think this will probably change, but as of right now, like, what do you think that looks like a Andrew Metz dream life? What do you think that entails?
I think about like my funeral and how many people I can impact. And I think about having 3 children and trying to raise good people. I think about trying to leave, I don't want to use the word legacy, but it's like just making an impact, making a positive impact. Like someone that I haven't talked to in 5 years, but maybe they were in my world, or I worked with them or whatever. I lived by them, for 3 years. Like, when they think of me, do they go, yeah, that was great, that guy helped, or he listened, or whatever? And just try to create more and more connections like that. I mean, that's what LinkedIn's provided, is just meeting cool people. Here we are. We're talking right here. I did a podcast with my now friend Luke West up in Canada. It's like, how do my paths cross with that guy if I'm not out there posting stuff on LinkedIn? So it's like, you got to be able to put yourself out there. But I think a lot about how do people feel about their interactions with me on a maybe professional or personal level, but then also I think about how do I create that type of mentality for my 3 children? Because, a lot of my transformation and things I've reflected on came when I started to have children. And now you think about life beyond your own life, and how are you going to positively impact and just bear the weight of the responsibility of having, human beings that are dependent for you. It's kind of freaky just saying it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But it's cool, but it's a responsibility too.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that's cool. It sounds like a lot of your answers are really just about giving, impacting,
That's it.
sending love. And then, like, to tie back to the beginning, like you said, lead by example and be a person you're proud of, right? If you do that, so taking care of yourself, your body, your habits, and then you can give even more. And it's a self-fulfilling loop. It allows you, give to yourself, you give to others, and you can, that's what I love about personal development, man. I feel like if I grow, like you said, when you quit alcohol or when you run a marathon, you're bettering yourself, but you don't do it for that, but deep down that someone's going to see that and also kind of be like, like maybe I should start running, or maybe I should. And it's just one of those things that it feels good because it serves two purposes. You get to grow, they get to grow, and the whole world keeps growing together. And it's it's an awesome thing, man.
I think, yeah, and like you said, that's not why you do it, but I know for sure there's 3 people that live in my house that are looking at everything I do. So that's enough of a reason right there. I mean, my kids see me train, they see me run. My wife drops me off at, 10-mile remote places. My kids see me get dropped off, and then 2 hours later they see me come home, things like that. But that's all impressionable. They know, I kind of want them to think Dad's a badass. That's part of it. That's part of my motivation. But the real thing is I want them to know that if you want something, it's okay to be patient and go try, and you might fail. But if you want something, you got to put in that work. Because when I cross that marathon line on October 4th, my kids are going to be there because I want them to see all this. You know what I'm saying? Like they're seeing the work, but I want them to see what that's like, to go to have that accomplishment. And that is leading by example, is physically doing it.
Yeah, man. Man, I love that. I absolutely love that. And like you just said, I mean, and I think this is where people my age get caught in a trap, because we want the whole world to like us. We want to be accepted by everyone and to, change the world. But sometimes it's just about the people around you, man. Are you showing them love? Are you being the best self for them, being your best self for them? And, if that's what you're doing at the bare minimum, then I think you're doing a good job with life. So I think that's awesome, man. All right, man. Well, we're getting close to 3 here. I got a question for you to kind of give listeners something to think about. I like to have the guests just say a call to action or something to think about, or a reflection piece for the listeners, so they can take something from this interview and kind of put change into their own life or make reflection on their own experience here on earth.
If you don't like the chapter you're in, you could start a new one tomorrow. Don't wait for someone to go tell you, ask you. You need to empower your own self to go make the change, and think about how that's going to feel 1 week from now, a month from now, a year from now. And if you feel like that puts you in a better spot, there's nothing stopping you from changing right now.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dreamology podcast. I hope that you took something away from this episode. I know I learned a lot from Andrew, and I'd recommend writing down the number one thing you took away. Whenever we write things down, we remember them more and we think about them more. So write down the biggest lesson, the biggest takeaway you have from this episode. And if you want to, share it with me. I love seeing people's takeaways. Share it on social media, DM me, whatever you got to do. But it's always helpful if we write down those big takeaways and we think about them, because they'll stick with us more on our journey. And so with that being said, like Andrew said, be someone you're proud of. If there's a part about your life that you don't like, you can change it tomorrow. And really, for a lot of us young people out there who are impatient and want the world to give them everything they want right now, remember that sometimes it's important to ask ourselves, not what does the world owe us, but what do we owe the world? How can we serve the world in bigger and better ways? So with all that being said, let's get out there, let's make our dreams a reality, and let's be the change that this world needs. I'll see y'all next time.